Do you think that that's the best modality to obtain sobriety for addicts?
Well, it isn't obvious that there's a good alternative.
I've been in recovery for almost 14 years. Like any human being, I've had multiple struggles over that time. And prior to recovery, life was absolutely dreadful and horrible on the inside. The outsides of my life looked okay. I had a wife. I had some money. I had friends. I was somewhat healthy. But on the inside, I was an absolute disaster. I lived in a privately defined world that was closed, shut, and completely disconnected from perhaps my higher self or what was best for me. I didn't even know what that meant or that that was even possible. After all this time in my recovery journey, becoming a therapist, going back to school, all the things that I have done to take care of myself, one thing is absolutely certain to me, both personally, professionally, socially, clinically, etc. There is nothing more thorough and helpful for people in addiction recovery than the 12 steps that were pioneered and created by Alcoholics Anonymous. In today's video, I am going to help explain all these ideas by reviewing this video between Jordan Peterson and Theo Vaughn on AA and addicts and addiction recovery. And I'm going to help deepen our understanding of these things. And hopefully you can get a better understanding of why AA is so effective, how it works. I hope you find this helpful. Let's get back to the video here for a bit.
So that's the first thing. If AA doesn't work, it isn't like there's a preferable treatment. Most people cease alcohol use on their own without medical intervention. We don't know why, although religious transformation seems to be one. And of course, the 12 steps capitalizes on that. I think that it's quite an intelligent program, psychologically speaking. You know, first of all, you have to make a moral inventory. You have to figure out what's wrong in your life, which would obviously include the alcohol misuse. You have to rectify that, take responsibility for it, try to chart out a new course. You're also provided with a social structure, which is really useful when you're trying to stop drinking, because it's very probable that most of your friends are going to be drinkers. And so that leaves, not only do you stop drinking, but you stop associating with your friends or maybe even with your family members. That's really hard.
Huge. Yeah. So,
you know, an AA doesn't seem to be an exploitative organization. It's all volunteers. Speaking strictly clinically, it isn't obvious that there's a better alternative.
Okay. Two really important ideas from that. The first part, he describes the personal journey, the personal work. So to put it simply, some people say, find God, clean house, help others. Now, many people in recovery, myself included, in the beginning were so resistant to this idea of God, the word God, because of our own baggage, perhaps religious or atheistic or whatever it is. So that's one big barrier to AA, is people just say, I don't like that religious stuff. I'm not religious. It's not for me. Depending on the geographical location of your meetings, the people and the personalities within the meetings, this idea of God takes on many different contexts. The most important thing to remember is that it is a God of your own understanding, or a higher power of your own understanding. It could be a tree. It could be a group of people. It could be something other than your self-centered ego. And then once you at least surrender to this idea that you have a serious problem, develop some sort of relationship with this idea of a higher power or a power greater than your own self-centered ego, then you can move on to what Jordan Peterson was just saying, this idea of figuring out what's wrong with you and what's wrong with your life and all the problems that you have. And he calls it a moral inventory. And that's really step 4, is you make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself, which was, in my opinion, part of this idea that Carl Jung had around shadow work. And there is documented research and evidence that Carl Jung did help the founders of AA develop this program. I don't know the details of that. One day I keep telling myself I will explore that and figure it out. So once we do the step 4, the searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, then we move on to step 5, which is admitted to myself, God, and another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. Then you at least can acknowledge your own darkness, your own bullshit, and create a little bit of space between you and it. You share it with somebody else. You get it out of yourself. To me, the step 4-5 process was probably the most wonderful, transformative experience of my life, spiritually speaking, recovery-wise, psychologically speaking. To get all of that out was just incredibly healing and soothing and amazing. It took me a long time to get it all out thoroughly because my sponsor was amazing and he ensured that I took it seriously, did it thoroughly and slowly, and didn't cut any corners, because what you know about a lot of people in recovery or struggle with that kind of stuff is we like to cut corners. We like to do things the easy way. And in recovery, we learn to do things as they're supposed to be done, thoroughly, sincerely, with effort. Okay, that was the first piece of what he said. I could go on forever, but I will stop. The second piece he said is around it's free. Nobody's being exploited. There's no ulterior motive. This is another side of AA that is rarely ever discussed, is that it's free, self-supporting. There are no rulers. There's no hierarchy. It's probably the only really fully democratic organization that exists out there. It is phenomenal how it works. It's ground up. And that's another thing that keeps it alive, that keeps it genuine, that keeps egos to the best of the group's ability out of the way, serving the higher ideal, which is to help people struggling with addiction or alcoholism. That's the primary purpose of the group. And the fact that that has lasted nearly 100 years is phenomenal. It's really incredible. And there's no place like it in that sense. It really is a genuine volunteer service-oriented organization, and that is really inspiring. And part of the recovery is when you get connected to that. Okay, I'm going to get back to the video.
If you were being strictly scientific, you'd say, well, there's never been controlled trials of AA where you randomly assign people to the AA group and to the non-AA group or another treatment to see head-to-head which works better. And there's the problem that many people drop out, and so you can't tell exactly what the success rate is. But that's, in some sense, a technical argument. It also isn't clear to me that AA does people harm.
Right.
Which is also really important because many medical treatments can produce harm. And so the worst you could say is, well, maybe it won't work.
Just want to touch on that quickly. It's beautiful, right? I think the doctor, one of the doctor's oaths is do no harm. Another really amazing idea and ethos of the program, do no harm. Many people go to psychiatrists or other forms of, addiction cessation treatments, and they're given all kinds of medications. They're given perhaps psychedelic drugs, and the potential harms of those things are great, and they do harm people at times, of course. And when we're trying to help ourselves or others, we want to know these things. And this idea that it does, in some sense, no harm, maybe it wastes a little bit of your time, it hurts your ego a little bit, you get into an argument with someone because you don't want to be open-minded about what's going on there, may cause you a little stress in that sense. Otherwise, it works, it helps, it does no harm.
Yeah, and that's not that big of a risk. Especially if you're already wasted.
Comparatively speaking, yes.
Yeah, if you're already all sick or something, you've been...
So what do you think it was that enabled you to stop drinking? Like, why did you manage it? What did you use as an alternative?
Well, I noticed when I went, my problem was cocaine, but I worried that if I drank, I would do cocaine. I never had a problem drinking, but I was worried that one could lead to the other.
Yes, undoubtedly.
I think, one thing, it gave me a place where I realized that other people were sharing their thoughts and feelings, and I'd never been in that kind of environment before. And so so that was one of the big things, was the emotional sobriety.
Just going to pause on that idea for another moment. Many people in addiction, alcoholism, in the struggle of suffering, we're not even aware of this idea that we can learn to articulate in an authentic way what's going on inside of us. So a huge part of AA and the 12 steps is learning how to articulate your suffering, and also how to articulate the solution to your suffering. And if you find a good meeting and you get a good sponsor, which is highly recommended, well, really, it's the only way to work the program, you start to learn how to do these things. And for me, years and years of this, and I still go from time to time, depending on the nature of my life. And I am of service, and I do volunteer my time and my services, and not just in AA, but outside AA. That's how we heal. We learn from each other, and then we teach each other. There's a lovely saying, you can't keep what you don't freely give away. And that's the whole idea of sponsorship in AA. And that's why it continues to work. And that's why it's free. And you get the group therapy, you get the one-on-one therapy, and you get the social nature and the healing, the spiritual healing of being part of a community and no longer alone, which is a huge component of it.
And then it helped me have a relationship with a higher power, which I'd never really had.
Right. And what difference did that make, do you think, to you?
Man, it was the first time in my life I felt like something cared about me unconditionally.
And you experienced that?
Oh, and I experienced it at a level that shook me, man. Like I got electrocuted. Like it was, that a God that some invisible thing cared about me at a level that I could never even imagine. And that no matter if I was good or bad, or if I did something naughty or nice or cinnamon or spice, man, that this thing loved me. And that was, I just never felt that before. So for there to be a way to get to that feeling, that's what made recovery feel like important to me, I think.
Well, to have an experience like that is a real gift.
Yeah.
It is a real gift to have that experience. I was just talking about this with a client the other day, and I still can't believe I use this language in my life, but we find God, or our higher power, this connection to the transcendent goodness of the universe through the program. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it happens slowly. It will materialize if we work for it. But that's how we find God, through the process of healing and the process of the program, any spiritual path. Again, if you don't like that word God, I suggest you sit with that for a little while. But you don't need that word. It just means awe, wonder, something, again, outside the prison of your own mind and your own ego and your own pain. And finding that is incredibly liberating and soothing. And I remember when I first heard Jordan Peterson being asked about and talking about the 12-step stuff, and he did his PhD research in alcohol addiction. So he's quite informed about all this stuff. It was really helpful for me to hear from a clinical, scientific, psychological side how these things are backed up and supported by the psychological field. And in my practice in these days as a therapist, a clinician, there really isn't much of an alternative. There are cognitive behavioral based groups. There's all kinds of other things that people can do. Okay. It's not that you can't find help and heal otherwise. It's just that this program is by far the most thorough, the most beautiful, and the most life transformative thing there is out there that I've ever seen. And until we find a better alternative or improve what AA is, or the 12 steps are, because of course they're not perfect, I encourage you to check it out. If you are struggling to recover, if you know someone else is struggling, you can encourage yourself or them to check these things out. So I hope you found that video helpful. My name is Mike Stroh. This is the Starts With Me channel. Please like this video, comment on it, subscribe, share it with someone again. And I sincerely appreciate you listening. I wish you all the best. Take it easy. Peace out. I am very grateful that you watched to the end of this video. please click one of the boxes to watch more of our content. And otherwise, have a great day. Peace out.